Let's talk a few minutes about jack planes. I want to make the case for why I consider the 5.5 to be the plane that you should start with. Now, first I'm going to tell you some general information about the planes. The bodies are made out of ductile iron and they're stress relieved. What does that mean? Well, they're not going to break if you drop them, and they're not going to warp over time. The handles are babinga, which is a nice, dense, tropical hardwood. The blades are thick. They're 1/8 of an inch. All the planes have bedrock-style frogs, which simply means you can move the frog without disassembling anything, so that you can open or close the throat, closing it down to control tear out on figured wood, opening it up so that you can take a heavier shaving. But now a little more specific as to why the 5.5. If you're building furniture, and if you're new to hand planes or haven't used a shooting board before, I'm going to suggest that you're going to want to get one, because it will allow you to square up your boards faster and more accurate than any other method that I can think of, and it can leave you with a finished surface. However, when you're working your bench, you're also doing general smoothing. It's really nice, particularly in my situation, my bench is constantly full of stuff. It's nice to be able to have one plane that does everything. What's good on the shooting board? Well, you want a heavy plane. You're making a cut through end grain, which is typically your toughest cut. The heavier the plane, the more momentum helps carry the blade through. But you also want to have a fair bit of distance between the toe and the blade. Now, when I say momentum, it would be great to be able to start back here and then plane the end of the board, but you run the risk of hitting the side. So you have to be engaged before you start. The more distance you have now, the greater you can have, the greater momentum you can develop as the blade engages the wood. Just as a quick example, the 4.5, which is a smoother, great for general purpose on the bench, but not so good in a shooting board, not enough distance here, and not quite the weight that you're looking for that you do get in the 5.5. So on the shooting board, exceptional. It's not too big, it's not cumbersome, and it's great general purpose on the bench for smoothing. This is a plane that I reach for more than 80% of the time. There is an exception to the 5.5. If you're not a very big person and you find this heavy, you could consider the number 5. Now the comparisons, 5.5 is just under 15 inches in length. The number 5 is just under 14 inches in length. The blade is 2 inches wide on the number 5. It's 2 3/8 inches wide on the 5.5. The rear tote, that's the handle, is a little bit bigger on the 5.5. So if you're an adult male with a large size hand, this is going to be far more comfortable. And by the way, this is a 3-finger grip. Your index finger sits right here on the side of the frog. A little smaller hand, consider the 5. Either way, they're great planes. They'll give you a lifetime of great service. They come flat, ready to use out of the box. Maybe 5-10 minutes of tuning them, or as I like to say, souping them up a little bit. The blades are good and thick. They're easy to sharpen. They'll hold an edge. These are great planes, and perhaps the best thing that's happened to hand planes in the last 50 years.